weird that they didn't have.
I now call the Thursday, August 7th, regular school board meeting for Forest Lake area schools to order. Please join us while we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call of attendance?
Yes, I will. Is this on? We good? All right, Member Haglund.
Here.
Member Corcoran. Here. Member Castle.
Here.
Member Tyson. Here. Member Antonsen is here. Member Christensen.
Here.
And Member Rebbeline.
Here.
Everybody's here.
All right, before we move to approving the meeting agenda here, I just wanted to point out to the board here that I was notified that there's a technical problem with the live stream. The meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be made available later, but we will not be live streaming to our YouTube channel this evening. So unless there's an objection, I would propose that we continue with our meeting, and we just ask administration to upload the meeting when it's possible to do so. All right, seeing no objection, we'll continue with this, and such, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted. That brings us to scheduled and unscheduled visitors. We will start with the listening session. Member Christensen and myself were present at the listening session this evening. Member Christensen, would you like to open?
Yes, I had 8 people speak this evening, and there was 7 of the 8, I would say, had sort of a general sense of frustration with communication and various other issues relating to the school board. We had some questions on the new 300 series that will be on the agenda later, some policy questions on that. Questions about the dress code and the symbols that go along with the discussion that we had on the dress code. We had a discussion or some speaking about the rule in Robert's Rules of Order that members of the board can only speak twice, and that was brought forward that there was some concerns with that and representation. People who wanted the people that they voted to be able to speak about that. We had some questions about integrity and again, more dress code issues. And we had another person speak about some state issues versus constitutional issues. Another comment about the frequency of adding amendments to the agenda at the board table versus on the printed agenda or the agenda that's sent out ahead of time so that people are able to review that information.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Member Christensen. About the only thing I have to add to that in looking at my notes here is, yes, we did have some individuals comment about the Policy 515, which is back in committee in September here. So we'll hear what the committee has to think about that. We did have one individual that was mentioned that she was thankful for the responses to email. I know we get a lot of email, but I do know that a lot of members of the public are thankful, especially when they're asking us a direct question and they hope to get an answer. Let's see what else here. We did have an individual call out a board member, specifically myself, on integrity, and I'd just like to point out that we are doing our best. We are prone to making mistakes, and we are very open to having our comments challenged, and if we do make mistakes, please point those out to us, and we can point that out. The specific example that was cited was concerning the symbols in Policy 515 and the various policies across the state. I believe I cited that 99% of districts do. It's possible that it's not 99. I did read every single one of them, but I may have missed one or two. I did ask for specific examples so I could follow up on that and look into it closer. And then when this does come back around, I can have either a more accurate number or rectify it in another way. We also did have an individual point out the fact that the board was elected by the community, and that there is a strong community desire for change, and that change is good, and that the people who are happy with the change aren't necessarily the ones that are going to voice their opinion and make noise. So he did lend some support. That is all I have to add there, which will bring us to our green card process. So I will read off my preamble here quickly, and then we'll move right to that. So with our green cards, we feel that public comment is a very important aspect of our community interactions, and have included that opportunity on our agenda this evening. In accordance with our green card procedure, we ask speakers to keep their comments relevant to the agenda item they would like to speak on. Comments that deviate from the topic are inappropriate and subject to being called out of order by any board member. We also ask that speakers remain respectful. Please remember, addressing the board during a publicly held meeting is a privilege, and the board is not legally obligated to provide the public with this opportunity, and that this process is non-interactive. Due to numerous threats of violence against board members, I'm reminding speakers that comments directed towards or alluding to any individual board member are out of order and will not be tolerated. Violations of this requirement will result in the speaker forfeiting the remainder of their time and a directive to leave the premises. Future opportunities for the speaker to address the board may also be impacted. We request that everyone be respectful of commenters and refrain from making their own comments or applauding to help keep things moving. Commenters are given 3 minutes to speak, and the clerk will give notification to speakers as their time is expiring, and the chair will strike the gavel once your time has expired. I've shuffled the deck of cards, which wasn't difficult this evening since we only have 2, and we'll call speakers by their first name and their last initial. To keep things moving, please be ready when it's your turn. Again, comments directed towards or alluding to any individual board member will not be tolerated. We'll start this evening with Claire L. and Joe N. You will be on deck. Welcome, Claire.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Claire Luger, and I'm here to speak on agenda item 6.1 as well as 9.1. I want to specifically speak on the proposed policy to punish community members from speaking out of turn, as well as the proposed idea to reevaluate district business with vendors who are critical of proposed policies, as reflected in the meetings, the July meetings minutes. As a reminder, every member of the audience is a taxpaying stakeholder in how district policy impacts their students, their families, their community, and their property taxes. There are no lanes for stakeholders to stay in. The suggestion that any stakeholder in this community should remain silent about a proposed policy is actually authoritarian. The irony of what was paraphrased as disruptive behavior is that it was a result of an unwillingness to acknowledge overwhelming community objection to having our schools disrupted for our students. And it was avoidable. With elected leadership comes responsibility. And it was extremely disappointing to hear some of the language that was utilized to describe community members' input. The focus on these issues by board members is not only a distraction from the real education issues of our district, but the manner in which they've been delivered has eroded the trust of the community from the school board, and that is unacceptable. We deserve better. I certainly hope that rather than continuing to react to input with vindictiveness and hostility, board members start to actually engage the public respectfully and responsibly, because that is the role of an elected official. Regarding agenda item 9.1, I'm really looking forward to a really thorough outline of each step of the process and the importance of community collaboration over its development. I want to highlight, though, a vital element of our strategic plan, and that is diversity and educational equity. Diversity is a strength. A strategic plan that includes diversity commits us to equity in access, curriculum, staffing, and leadership. It ensures that we are preparing students for a real world, a world that is multicultural, interconnected, and increasingly global. In the Forest Lake area schools, we believe that educational equity is the foundation of everything we do, according to our established beliefs. Educational equity is not about giving some students more, it's about ensuring that every student has the support they need to succeed. When we create equitable environments, we don't lower standards, we raise outcomes for everyone. Equity strengthens schools and communities, and that's not ideology, that's data. To be clear, equity is not a political agenda. It is a commitment to fairness, to excellence, and to preparing every student to contribute to society, succeed in life, and be proud of who they are, and to do so strategically and systematically. Our schools should be a place where all children, regardless of their background, can thrive. If we fail to plan for equity and we fail to include it as an ideal, we are planning to leave students behind. And that's not just unjust, it's unacceptable. When we prioritize inclusion and equity, we send a clear message. Every student belongs here. Every student is a ranger. Let's make sure our strategic plan isn't just about goals, it's about values, including diversity and educational equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
Joe N.
My name is Joe Nelson, and I'm a proud father of 2 graduates from this district. And a longtime resident of Forest Lake. I am not a business owner. I'm also not on any committee, so I sincerely hope you spared for me from any retaliation for speaking my mind tonight. I intend to use my full 3 minutes, and while you may not like what I have to say, I respectfully ask that you not interrupt or silence me. I've watched many of these meetings, and I've watched good, respectful citizens attempt to voice their concerns only to be silenced by rules that seem to be designed to prevent honest criticism. Some have even thanked you for the opportunity to speak only to be removed from this building they help fund as taxpayers. That won't be me. I'm here to call out what many in this community already know but are too afraid to say. Forest Lake has a serious problem with racism and intolerance. And it's time to stop pretending otherwise. In 2022, during the Linwood Car Show, your campaign ad with some of your faces appeared under the Confederate flag. When questioned, you claimed no one had a problem with it. Well, I'm someone, and I had a serious problem with it then, and I have a serious problem now.
Please refrain from referring to directly referring to specific board members.
I have 3 minutes to talk. So many others do, in fact, that they wrote an article about your car in 2022. They made
Okay,
the same
that's-
that you went through.
that-
You have heard companies-
You're out of order.
They're just words.
You're out of order. Please.
Sir, they're just words. I can speak words
Please,
in.
no, please
There's
leave the
been a lot
building.
of please,
No.
not my time, please.
Please,
There's a lot of
please
quotes out
leave
there
the
that say
building.
that we can speak words even if you don't like them.
Please leave the building. You've been
Students
instructed
have
that.
reached out to, being harassed, they've told the stories of students being harassed or abused.
Please,
or just being-
you are out of order. Please leave the building.
Except for, please don't eject me for speaking words. These are just words, please. Right,
Officer,
I'll
will you-
speak my 3 minutes and then I'll leave.
Thank you.
They are just words, right? Can I just speak my words?
No, you've been asked to leave the premises.
Guys, this is what taking your rights away looks like.
You,
I know it's okay, but,
Okay.
I mean, it's not okay.
thank you.
How does the board,
Protect your children.
how does the board chair have the authority to remove
Okay.
somebody? It's not, the board acts as a board. Only the
Yeah.
superintendent
All right,
has the authority.
we,
Open enrollment.
brings us to workshops and conferences. Does anybody have anything for workshops and conferences? All right, seeing nothing for workshops and conferences, City of Forest Lake, Member Christensen and Member Tyson.
Yes, I had, or did you have something?
Do you want to go first? I'll go second, or I'll go first, whatever you want.
On the July 17th meeting of the Forest Lake City Council, there was a lot of various discussion on lots of items, but discussion about the Veterans Memorial Lakeside Project. Construction will begin September through November. There was also discussion of a concept plan for an addition to the Bittersweet subdivision, new single-family homes on the northeast side of Forest Lake. There'll be about 20 lots. That area backs up to Coolant Camp. There was also a mention of an application for a second phase of the Chestnut Creek development. I think that was kind of a highlight right there. And then on the July 29th meeting, there wasn't really anything specific having to do with the school board. Lots of discussion about parking along North Shore Trail near the Pizza Pub area. And there are some positions open at the city, so people could look on the website. There's a deputy clerk position and other positions as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Christensen. Anything to add,
I'd
Member
just like
Tyson?
to add that we know summer's winding down. The last Arts in the Park with the Corn Feed and the Rockin' Hollywoods will be August 26th already. Then we know school is knocking on the door the next week. Also, they had Night to Unite, which I think is really coming back after COVID, not meeting as often, and they had 30 visits to homes. I know there was one up in one of my cul-de-sacs, And then they had presents at Arts in the Park, and they did a huge collection, school supply drive, and Cub Foods donated the boxes for sorting. So we're so thankful that they do that community outreach. It's so important to feel that connection with FLPD, and we want to just thank them. I want to add that the intersection at Quick Trip will open up Labor Day weekend, but not to 35E. It's the 97 reconstruction, so I know that people are waiting for that, and I know it's going to probably impact our buses when school starts as well. So they're making headway. I read on their website that there was some street found under the street, and so they've had some setbacks, and the medians are going to be nice. So I hope there's not too much with our busing that goes out that way, because I know a lot of them cross over there. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, any quick, Member Hegland?
Member Tyson, did they say when the project is estimated to be completed?
Well, they have
Or if it's
changed-
behind schedule or anything?
My husband actually checks it more than I do, but they have changed it a lot. Quick Trip will be told that it's going to open up Labor Day, then they'll pull it back and push it later. But I think the whole thing concludes like around Thanksgiving. So, but
Yeah,
the superintendent probably
yeah,
knows.
it does extend into the fall. I don't know that at this time they're given a firm date. We have not heard that. Our transportation department is working with MnDOT and the city and rerouting buses, and so
Okay.
we're well prepared for that, but it's certainly going to have an impact.
Is the detour going to be changing, going through any residential areas that we need to be concerned about, or as far as when busing starts?
Yeah, we've been given the information on ways to access those different neighborhoods, and they are providing those access points. Yep.
And that's with this year's. It goes on next year, too.
Yeah, this is phase one. Yep.
Yeah, phase one.
Member Anderson?
Okay. I was looking for the positive happenings on here, but I don't
Oh,
see
yeah,
it.
we
So
don't
can
see- I know, it's not on here.
Speak to the workshops and conferences, sort of. I attended, that's superintendent.
Any objection?
Oh,
No.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Member
No, we
Anderson,
missed it.
I
yeah.
have mine too.
Well-
I didn't realize that it was.
If there's no objection, we can add that. Yeah, go ahead, Member Anderson.
yeah, well, I went to the superintendent forum, and I ran into Jill there and talked to Gail a little bit. It was nice to see the superintendents from all three districts talking about what they're doing, and I was trying to take notes. They're real messy. I'm going to try to read what I thought was one of the most important things when the question came up with, and I think it's pertinent tonight since we're going to be talking about closed session for teacher contracts, is what we're doing for teacher and talent retention. And Dr. Massey talked about the robust professional development that we have in our district, the mentoring, onboarding programs, and high school credit and college credit. And I don't really understand that. So you're saying for students as far as towards teaching certificate or something? Or, oh, okay. Well, when we talk on Monday, you can tell me more.
Very
Because I
good.
don't really get it. So, okay, awesome. So I was excited to hear that. And one of the other things I loved hearing, and I know that one of the administrators I talked to said we try to implement this no phones rule, and it's not always followed, but Chisago Lakes was saying that they implemented, took out all the cell phones, and that they've seen tremendous improvements in behavior and student interactions, and I think it's so important that I'd really like to see our schools push for that. And I really enjoyed listening to Miss Paul, Sarah Paul was her name, is that it? From North Branch as well. Anyway, it was a good event, glad I went.
To add to that, I spoke with one of the board members from Stillwater last night about it. They're implementing a policy this year. When you walk in the building, you turn in your cell phone. When you walk out of the building, you get your cell phone back. It sounds like a logistical nightmare to me, so I'd be really curious to see how they end up implementing that, how it works for them. But yeah, I would suggest the seven of us pay really close attention to how it works in other districts, because it's something that we may need to bring here and work with our administration and our principals specifically, and see how do we implement either the exact policy here or something like it, because if it helps with student success, I can't see any of us not being on board with that.
Yeah.
Member Tyson, did you have something you wanted to add for this as well?
Well, yeah, I wanted to add that I got some really great points of value out of listening to all three, and I'm so thankful our superintendent represents our district so well, speaking on so many aspects of what we're doing, what we have done. There was a lot of talk around the unfunded mandates that came out and how that's really strapping us and how there's a need for local control, and that was a good discussion. I really liked one of the points that the superintendent from Chisago Lakes made about they did their strategic plan recently, and he said, unless you go to the stakeholders and you're really listening, you're not going to come out with a plan that's going to take you into the future. And I talked to him afterwards, and he said, yeah, we really had to bring everybody into the table. And I said, we're getting ready to redo ours, and hopefully we're going to include everyone and have that depth of discussion and all of that. He also talked about how their bond failed, and their middle school has got the curtains up on the top floor, and I have nieces and nephews that go there. And so we talked about how that is a struggle because it took us 12 years to get the one that we passed in 2018, and we're just so proud of what we could accomplish with those dollars in our community, blessing us with the ability to get that new HVAC and get all those new things that we got. So anyway, it was really a fun discussion by all three superintendents. It was fun to listen to. I just want to add that in the journal, the MSBA journal on page 24, I believe, our own director of special ed has an awesome article in here about our day treatment that we started. And she just has some great quotes in here. And one I want to read by Director Wilson is that she says, keeping students at the school, from what we've seen, leads to a higher success rate of them transitioning back into regular school life. So we're really proud of having that and having it featured in here. And that collaboration with Canvas Health has just been a blessing to those students that need those services. And we're so happy they can stay in our building and not have to get on a van and go somewhere else. So thank you for that, Director Wilson. And then, of course, Community Ed came out. That signifies fall, so we know school's right around the corner. And that concludes my positive happenings. Thank you.
You just took the positive out of positive happenings by mentioning fall.
I know. Positive.
It's already coming up on us. Member Christensen.
I just wanted to add, and I didn't have my, anyway, I went to the marching band concert, and it was awesome at the football stadium. I think it was last Tuesday, I'm not sure. It was so great. There were so many people there. The weather was perfect. All the band instructors, the coaches spoke about each other and gave each other gifts, and I don't know, it was really neat, super positive. It just felt, it just felt really good. Those are the good things about being on a school board. It was really great to go, and great turnout, really, too. And it was free, and it was great.
We have a great music program, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
We do. Member Corcoran.
Well, I did the Night to Unite in my neighborhood, first time, and I mean, it's a lot of, it's an older crew. We don't have any kids, but we did have the police came, the fire truck came. I felt like they're like, where are all the kids? But I mean, they knew we had an older community there. And then we had the mayor and the council member came, so it was quite the turnout. So there's probably at least 35 of our neighbors, and then all those people came, and we had a great spread with food and everything, so that was a really fun event. And then today I attended at the YMCA, they had the SPIAC event, the Influence for Good Amplifying Positive Change in Forest Lake. It was this morning between 7:30 and 9, and it probably had, I don't know, maybe 45 people. I mean, I was pretty impressed. I just had no idea that many people were going to be there. It was business owners, a lot of different people from the community, just kind of a networking event. And it was just really a great event, really eye-opening. So I learned a lot today. It's really great.
All right, does anybody else have anything for reports before we move on to the superintendent report? All right, seeing none, Dr. Massey.
Board, thank you for the opportunity. On behalf of the school district, I would like to extend our condolences to Jay Schostag's family. Jay passed away on July 24th. And as you know, Jay started driving bus for us in 2007. So almost 2 decades driving bus for us. Jay will be dearly missed by all of us and, of course, the kids and families that he has driven. Some good news on enrollment, update there. Enrollment is currently at 5,587 students. That is 44 students over the enrollment number that we ended last year with. It's been a decade since we've been able to report increased enrollment, last year and this year. We are currently 132 students above the number that we have built the 26 school year budget around. So some very encouraging signs there. I am sure that as we get into September, that number will be even greater as we approach the start of the year. We're in still an effort to secure staffing for the school year. Our regular instructional staff or positions are largely filled. Special education position, teaching positions are largely filled. I will point out that we have 7 contracted special education teaching positions. I would point out that they're more expensive when you contract, but when you don't have applicants and the pool is really shallow, you have no alternative to fill those positions. We have contractual obligations to meet IEP requirements, so we have to turn to contracted positions. We also have 5 contracted school nursing positions as well. On the custodial ranks, we have a couple of open positions, same in food service. Bus drivers, we have a number of open positions at this time. And for anybody listening to this board meeting who has an inclination to drive school bus, please give us a call. We're continually recruiting and trying to get word out there for bus drivers. And for our para positions, we also have many open positions that we're still trying to fill. I will add to the excitement around the start of the school year with a report on open house events. Elementary school open house will be August 27th, 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Great opportunity for board members to get out and about in schools and see young families bringing kids into school and getting set up for the start of the school year. The middle school, as you know, we have the exciting development of 6th graders joining our middle school. We have a bit of a soft open house for 6th and 7th graders, both grades being new this year, to pick up schedules, walk the building, and meet their counselor. That's coming up here on August 21st. 6th grade open house at the middle school will be on August 26th, 3:30 to 7 p.m. Staff will be present for that event. August 27th, 7th and 8th grade have the opportunity to attend open house 3:30 to 7 p.m. The first day of school for the school year then would be September 2nd. 6th graders only participating in web orientation. That'll be their intensive orientation. That'll be the first day of school. September 3rd, 7th graders will attend along with 6th graders. And then all students on Thursday, September 4th. Open house at the high school, schedules and scheduling open houses will be taking place here beginning August 18th, where they'll pick up schedules and have a chance to interact with deans and make scheduling adjustments. And then they're available August 20th, 21st, and 22nd to work with students and make adjustments to schedules. The new teacher orientation week begins the week of August 18th. There will be 3 days, August 19th, 20th, and 21st. The Chamber always puts on just a tremendous event, bringing in local businesses to welcome the new educators to Forest Lake. That's held at Split Rocks at 11 a.m. on August 21st. And then the all-staff in-service week will be the week of August 25th. The all-district staff event will be Tuesday, August 26th, starting right away at 7:30 with the event and a keynote speaker at 8 a.m. Our keynote speaker this year is Mickey Smith Jr. Those of you that attended the MSBA workshop last February or January, whenever that was, Mickey Smith was the keynote speaker there, was a rounding success and just tremendously talented. School begins September 2nd. And as I mentioned, web events and high school events and all sorts of preparation. And then beginning next week, all of our athletes, varsity athletes and high school athletes are starting their fall season. So a lot of exciting things developing. As I've said many times, summer's a transition, not a break for many of us. And we, along with administrators, have been working almost around the clock in preparation for the start of the year. So a lot of exciting things taking place. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Massey. Lots of exciting things coming up. Brings us to our consent agenda, items 6.1 to 6.5. Is there anything on the consent agenda that any member would like to be removed?
I'd like to pull 6.1, please.
6.1. We don't need a second for that. So we'll pull 6.1. Anything else? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve 6.2 through 6.5.
So moved. Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second on 6.2 and 6.5. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that motion carries. Brings us back to item 6.1. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Brings us to discussion. Member Tyson?
Yes, I just want to talk about the resolution that was passed in my absence, and I want to address the fact that I had no prior knowledge that this was going to happen. So I think having an item of this significance brought up and on the agenda without any prior notice is just disrespectful to the board members as a whole, as a team, as a group. It's disrespectful to our community and our stakeholders, and it's also disrespectful to our administration. And I'm hoping that we can start setting an example up here and working together as a group. I'd like to see us build trust and not inflame our community and our stakeholders and start working together. I know that I had a discussion with the board chair, and it is going to committee, and it'll come back around for discussion that I can participate in, but I'm really disappointed that this took place when I was absent. So I just hope moving forward we can build trust as fellow board members and not have things put on the agenda without prior notice. And then I also want to address the fact that I was so disheartened to hear that we chastised our business district. I think we have been so blessed in Forest Lake with businesses that go above and beyond supporting our students, the CFS fund, our scholarship fund. I mean, I could go on, and I think that when we take a stab at that, kind of off the cuff, and don't use good tactics with that, opening a discussion around it, I think we need to be really careful, because I think in our district we have a lot of business support, and we are so thankful for that. So moving forward, I hope we can build trust among our board members.
Member Atkinson?
Is there a written rule somewhere or that I'm not aware of, guideline whatsoever as to what is our practice for adding things on? I mean, you know, like Jill had said, she had wanted to add something last time and she couldn't add it on, and
Yeah, that's an excellent,
so can we just talk about that openly, like what
Sure.
is it? So then,
But can I go back to my time to have,
Oh.
and then I'll be done?
oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just want to
There's more.
say that this was a significant thing to add. I think there are other things that we want to revisit, whatever Member Christensen wanted to put on there, but I think this had a significant weight to it. So I think those are really areas we need to all have prior notice. It needs to be transparent on our agenda so that our stakeholders and our community of parents and everyone knows. And that's the point I'm making about that
Yeah.
particular resolution that got passed.
And thank you, Member Tyson, for bringing that up. I'll respond to Member Atkinson's point of inquiry here. How we traditionally handle agendas is we have a kind of a framework that we use throughout the year. There's certain points of business that we need to do. One of them this evening being Member Christensen's employment approval. That we just kind of know that's going to come up in August. We have some other things that come up throughout the year that are well planned out. The rest of the agenda is set usually through a discussion between myself and Dr. Massey. And that usually occurs at least a week ahead of time. Sometimes we meet as late as Friday to get that out, but as board members know, we typically have the proposed agenda out to the board on Fridays. The public then sees it the following Monday. That gives the board some time to digest it, to ask some questions. And if changes need to be made before it's released to the public, they're released on Monday. I have a running list as board chair. As you know, the agenda is an agenda proposal by the chair. This is what I propose and we speak about. So I do have a list of things that we need to address throughout the year that I keep track of. Member Christensen's request, she wants to readdress one of the policies that we have, specifically around limitations on discussion. That's on my list as well. If I hear from multiple board members on a similar topic, that will bump it up in the priority. I know every board chair does it a little bit differently. That's kind of how I approach it. On the specific directive to administration that you bring up, Member Tyson, I'm super glad that you brought that up, because that was part of my approved policy proposal. I did want it published on the proposal. I wanted people to be able to see that. Just because it's my approved or my proposed policy doesn't mean that every one of my suggestions make the proposed policy either. I addressed that 2 or 3 times during the meeting a couple of weeks ago, but to be perfectly clear, that was part of my proposed agenda. I did want it there. I had no reason to bring it up without giving some sort of a public notice. That request was denied. So just because it's my proposed agenda doesn't mean that everything that I want on there is there either. Going and addressing the point of inquiry that Member Antonsen had, the agenda that we approve every week that's presented and posted online, and I've said this a couple of times, it's a proposal until the board accepts it. And once the board accepts it, it is finalized. So every board member has the right to make amendments to the agenda, just like any other motion that we address. And as long as there is a majority of members who agree with that amendment goes forward. And we have made amendments to the agenda as far back as I can remember. I think even in my very first meeting, I may have proposed a motion to amend the agenda. So that is typically carried out once we approve the agenda as a board and a body and we accept it. Those are then our orders for the day. There are a couple of small procedural processes that we can follow if we need to make an emergency motion to amend the agenda, or we need to tweak it as we go. That gets pretty nuanced. We haven't really felt the need for that in the past, but those options do exist. That kind of concludes my comments on the agenda, unless somebody has some specific questions. Member Christensen?
Well, I just wanted to make a point to Member Antonsen, and I would say I came on the board along with Member Evelina and Member Hagelin, and since I've been on the board, it has been maybe not like a specific rule, but it has been sort of an unwritten rule or sort of a decorum or a the way we do things. I've been told, or the way it seems to me is you ask to have something put on the agenda, and then it's put on the agenda or not or whatever. And so I do feel like some of this, and you can, to be clear, you can add things at the board table, to be clear. You can do that. But I'm just saying, in the 2+ years that I've been on the board, prior to probably January, I would say, but if there was larger things or things that might be controversial or people might have concern about, I do really feel like those were put on the agenda prior to the meeting and that people could see it. I do feel like, personally, I feel like things of consequence are being added to the agenda at the board table. And I just, while that is legal and people can do those things, I just think, we have a lot more attention now on the board. A lot more people are coming. People are watching the agendas. And I just feel like, while that is something that you can do, I just don't necessarily feel like that is the right thing to do. I just don't, I feel like as a board member myself, I try to become really prepared to the meetings, and I pride myself as best I can being prepared at the meetings. And so I really disagree with or am disheartened by the adding of things of consequence at the table, which I feel like I would have rather been prepared about or feel like I can speak intelligently to something, that I've done my homework on it. So just, those are my opinions. I would rather we try to get away from that a little bit, as much as possible. That would be what I would add to that.
Member Corcoran.
Well, I do agree with everything that Jill had just said. I mean, I've been on the board for over 17 years, many years, and many board chairs, and I can probably count on one hand how many times we added things to an agenda in all those years previous to our new board chair. If things were of consequence, maybe it was something of an emergency or something that was super important was added, but that was very far and few, not very often. And to be transparent, isn't that the word we keep using, transparency, and being open and honest and showing the community that we want them to understand what's going on and to be able to show up for things that they care about. And if they don't know, and then they find out later, well, I didn't know that was going to, so it's just, it's a building of trust in the community. So I do agree with that giving, and I think by Monday, if it's not on the agenda and people, that's when they look, and it's all of a sudden it's not on there, that's really hard for people to make a plan. Because they're busy, their families, they're scheduling their time. It's hard for them to plan. So it would be nice. I mean, I know things come up once in a while, but as a standing rule, I don't believe we should be doing our business that way.
To that point, we had an adjustment this evening. The
Well,
achievement
positive.
specialist terms and conditions of
Yes.
employment were not posted until just a
Right.
few hours ago.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a normal course of work, Member Atkinson.
I don't even remember what I was going to say, sorry.
Sorry.
I didn't, I don't even know
We
if
we
I
can come back
meant
to you.
meant
Yeah.
to have-
Member Tyson, did you have something else?
Well, I just want to bring it back to why I pulled 6-1, because I was absent, and, building that trust and respect, I would have maybe expected a phone call from you saying, hey, we're going to discuss this, do you want to remote in? Are you willing to remote in? Of course I would have been, but
Okay.
I didn't get that phone call. To my knowledge, I don't think anybody knew ahead of time. And that's the part that becomes the inflammatory piece for us to work positively as a group, for our community to feel engaged in our district, and like their voices are being heard. So I think anything of that magnitude needs to have prior notice. And if a board member is
No.
missing or planning to be absent, ahead, give them the information so they know.
We do have to be careful about OML on that point, though.
True.
We cannot have a open meeting law violation due to I'm trying to remember the specific wording in statute on what type of meeting that's called, a serial meeting or something along those lines, but that one is difficult. Member Christensen?
I just want to make one point. Chair Rebelline did mention that there was an addition to the agenda, 6.5, ratify achievement specialist terms and conditions of employment. And I would just point out that probably no one here would be upset about that. Maybe they would be, I don't know. But, I mean, it seems an innocuous thing, and it was more of like a staff thing. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. If we have a last-minute teacher thing, anything like that. But to put something on the agenda that clearly would, I believe, upset people, or we would have reason to believe that people would be upset, those types of things are the kinds of things that and to Member Tyson's point too, I don't believe that those should be added. At the board table, people should be prepared and be able to come and speak on a green card to that and know that that is coming up. So those types of things is what I'm saying.
Okay. I do have
Any more
a-
discussion, Member Atkinson?
You did say that you had tried to put it on
I did.
the agenda,
I did.
but don't you ultimately, the office decides, or?
Well, to a point, I don't have administrative access over Board Book, so I
Oh.
can't force that. I can
Okay.
just make a request.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this?
So, can I clarify one thing,
Absolutely.
Chair Rebelline? So,
Yep.
you could have called me, right? To let me know
About the motion?
about the plan to put the motion and the resolution on that.
Possibly, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
I had not decided whether I was going to make the motion to amend the agenda or not.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Okay, I did want to address one of your other comments there about, I don't remember the exact phrasing that you used a few minutes ago here about the local businesses, but I don't feel that anybody was disparaging or even threatening towards any local businesses in our meeting a couple of weeks ago. In fact, when Member Hagelin mentioned that we review our member list, he specifically he did on purpose. He did not mention any local business. He just said we should look at this and make sure that the businesses that we do interact with meet our values, that meet the types of things that we want to do, that are organizations that we want to be associated with. When pressed on the matter, he even refused to mention anybody local. And I think I even spoke to afterwards that we love our local businesses. We love partnering with them. We love having relationships with them. And if any of my comments, any local business felt threatened by that, I apologize for that. But that was certainly not my intent with my comments. And I don't believe it was Member Hagelin's, but I would let him speak to that if I'm incorrect.
No, you nailed it.
Member Hagelin, okay, thank you. Was there any other discussion on this, the specific action item here? Or, all right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have approved all of the consent agenda this evening, which brings us to action item 7.1, donations. Member Christensen?
We didn't do a roll call.
We didn't do a roll call.
We didn't do a voice vote either, though. We just moved it to- Oh, wait, I thought we did.
I think you did.
Yeah, we did.
We did too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. All right, Member Christensen,
Okay.
donations. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine, I just was making sure everything was okay. We have a very long and generous list of our donations this evening. So we have $19,063.97 from Forest Lake Girls Softball Booster Club for the 24-25 season booster paid coaches. We have $4,370.38 from Ranger Girls Hockey for STP apparel. We have $2,341.84 from Forest Lake Girls Soccer Booster Club for 25-26 girls soccer uniforms. We have $494 from the Forest View PTA for third grade transportation to a children's theater. We have $479 from the Knights of Columbia for link activities. We have $334.17 from Mark Castle for the Teaching and Learning Department. We have $200 from the First State Bank of Wyoming to support families in need. We have some in-kind donations of a wheelchair from Nicole Noto, a pediatric wheelchair for students in need. We have a headrest from Taylor Johnson, a custom wheelchair headrest for the SPED department, a crawligator and a harness from Carol Darden for special ed use, and a trike and a jumperoo from Misty Walker, also for SPED student use. And then we have from the marching band a bunch of donations here, $250 from the David Drolson Ameriprise Group for the new teacher luncheon performance. All these are for the Forest Lake Marching Band, $250 David Drolson, $250 David Drolson, $250 the David Drolson Family Foundation, $50 from Colleen Skolund, from Amy Johnson Memorial, $10 from Nadine Johnson. All were from the marching band and flag corps. So a total for both sides, $28,343.36, and I move to approve with gratitude.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Ameriprise for their generous donation for the teachers, the new teachers luncheon, because that's always kind of been a tradition in our district, and I think it's very fun and welcoming for them, and they can get together and have that time to prepare. And then also, I think that all the donations that the booster clubs are already in action. I've had 2 Forest Lake football brothers come selling their cards, and the Forest Lake dance team girls. So, just remember to generously donate to all of those areas. It's so fun to hear that they're getting all excited to be back in school and back in their routines with their activities.
Well, they have the best cards, so
They
do
do
not get
have
those
good
cards.
All right, any other discussion on donations? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call?
Sure. Member Rebbeline.
Aye.
Member Haglund.
Aye.
Member Christensen.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Castle.
Abstain?
And the ayes have it.
All right, that brings us to action item 7.2, Forest Lake Area School Staff Retirement Notice. Member Christensen.
Yes, we have one retirement this evening from James Weisner. He was a substitute bus driver with the Transportation Department for 29 years of service. So thank you so much for that. And I move to approve and welcome him to have a wonderful retirement.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion carries. Bringing us to item 7.3, board member approval for employment in the school district. Dr. Massey.
This is an annual process where the board is required to unanimously approve any board member working for the district earning an amount at $20,000 or less. We're grateful for the service Member Christensen provides in the lunchroom at Scandia Elementary. He's been doing that for many, many years. And administration would bring to you tonight a recommendation to approve her employment in that capacity for the 25-26 school year.
All right, I will move to approve.
Move to approve, 7-3.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a couple of seconds here.
Seconds, yeah, thirds.
Before we bring this to a vote, I'd just like to thank Member Christensen for her time working for Forest Lake Area Schools and the value that she brings us. I would like to echo the statement by Dr. Massey that unanimous approval is required on this motion. However, that does not mean that members cannot abstain. Just in case there was any question on that, I know I've had questions from the public about motions that require unanimous approval, but then there's an individual that abstains. So that's how that one works. Is there any other discussion? Member Tyson.
I did some research and actually talked with MSBA. Terry Morrow said it wasn't unanimous, it was majority.
No.
So I
If that's,
don't know if we want to, if you want to double check that, because you and I had discussed that.
I can double check that because we did discuss that.
It couldn't be unanimous if she doesn't vote. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, she can,
Right.
she can still
That's
abstain.
I
Yep,
mean,
She still can?
Yeah.
yep.
On her own?
Let me,
It-
I abstain.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I mean, but I mean,
Excuse me, Member
Well,
Chair,
I
I
just
do have
Yes.
the statute,
oh,
You do? Okay, what, can you
and it
read
does say majority.
Oh,
It does.
It says, if the officer does not receive majority approval.
Oh,
well, look at that.
huh.
I-
It's a vote of the entire board, though.
Oh, that is, okay.
We all have to
Because we
be,
didn't come
yes.
back
Yeah,
that one
it
year.
is,
Yeah.
excuse me,
all-
we
all
all
members
have to be
present.
present.
Yes.
That's,
Right.
That's what it
But it
is.
does
That's
not
right.
have to be unanimous. It has to be
Unanimous.
majority.
Yeah.
that's right.
Because we had to redo
Look at all
that
this
one year.
Yes,
confusing.
he did.
Yes.
Yep.
It's working.
That's right. Well, thank you both for looking into this. I knew there was a nuance to this, but I didn't remember the specific nuance there was to it. Having just gone through the 1200 series policy, I know that we have it in there, and it was essentially a copy and paste from statute. So thank you for pointing that out, because then we don't need unanimous approval, we just need a majority vote. And going back to the way that abstaining works, a majority vote can be one person and 6 people abstaining. So the fun part of the way that these rules work. But if there's no other discussion on this, we can move to,
We're all here.
yes, Member Castle.
Point of inquiry, have we had any votes that have impacted the employment contract that would pertain? Because in that case, there'd be a conflict of interest, and we should know that beforehand.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
No,
Okay.
not that, since I've been on the
So
board.
when this comes up, who is it, maybe somebody would just remember offhand, but who would it be that would bring up that this would be impacting the vote in that particular case?
If I'm understanding the inquiry correctly, does this, are you asking essentially, is Member Christensen a member of one of the employment groups where we vote on the contract that she would be part of?
If that was the case, then who would be the one? Would it be Dr. Massey that says this would be affecting the vote on this case? Or would it be the board chair, or would it be the individual?
Yeah, Director Friedman, I believe, is that general benefits or is that where the food service or lunch duty folks are covered?
We have one scheme under which
Yeah.
Member Christensen's employed, it's the general benefits
Yeah.
plan.
Does that answer your inquiry?
Well, I'm asking it like when it comes up for that,
When we're working with that
when we're
bargaining
working
group?
with that
Yeah.
piece of legislation.
I
so
think
to
it's
speak.
the responsibility of superintendent, chair, or the member, him or herself, to understand that potential conflict and abstain.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I just say
Yeah,
one more thing before,
absolutely,
just to
yeah.
clarify for new board members, there are stipulations, you have to make less than $20,000 a year, which I make significantly less than that. So there's no problem there, and it's been approved, 2 other times
Yeah.
without incident, so. It's a common thing, I think maybe a little bit more in rural districts, maybe, I'm not sure. There is a full-time employee making more than $20,000 would not be able to serve
Right.
on the board, so.
Yep.
There's not a conflict of interest in that regard.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would point out that this has been a longstanding practice here at Forest Lake Area Schools. We have board members who have served in the capacity of substitute teaching or various other positions across the district, so.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion here? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, will you please take a roll call?
All right. Member Antonsen votes aye. Member Haglund?
Aye.
Member Christensen?
Abstain.
Member Castle?
Aye.
Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Corcoran?
Aye.
And Member Rebbeline?
Aye.
And the ayes have it.
All right, motion carries, bringing us to 8.1. First reading on school district, well, actually, we'll handle 8.1 through 8.6 as kind of a block here. First reading on the 1300 series of policies. I sent out read-only copies of these to the board last week. We also have them in our packet. Pull up the cover sheet quickly. Sorry, this one snuck up on me this evening. All right, so this would replace our 200 series. Our 200 series relates to district administrative job descriptions. The 1300 policies that you see in front of you are based on the 300 series from the Minnesota School Boards Association. They follow model policy exactly. No changes were made. They relate to school district administration, superintendent selection, superintendent contract duties and evaluation, policy implementation, and administration code of ethics. As I've mentioned in an email last week to the board, my thoughts on these policies is we would do a first reading here this evening, so everybody had a week to review them, opportunity to see what they are. The public's now had a chance to look at them as well. In 2 weeks, on the 21st, it will be part of my proposed agenda that all policies 8.1 through 8.6, so it'd be 1301 through 13.6, be brought back to the board for any discussion or amendments on a policy-by-policy basis, sort of like we workshopped the 1200 series policies previously. But at that time, on the 21st, we would not take official action. If amendments are made, those amendments will be cataloged, and they will be included on the September 4th meeting agenda for final approval. On September 4th, if any final changes are needed, any I call it kind of tweaking and tuning, we could do that on September 4th before either officially adopting or rejecting the policies at that time. My thought on this being that this could be an opportunity to review how we approve approve policies that will be more transparent, a little bit more collaborative with the community, and this seems like a good deck of policies to utilize for that beta test, so to speak. So again, to repeat and summarize that, the 1300 series is based on the MSBA model. It's being proposed here tonight as just a first reading. In 2 weeks, it will be back on the agenda for discussion and for amendments, if there are any. And then on September 4th, it would come back to the board for final approval and any final changes to anything that may have been amended. And that way, we'd have a little bit, in that manner, the community would especially, and the board members alike, would be able to digest the amendments that are made, comment on those changes, see if any other changes need to be made. I hope that's clear. Member Christensen?
I was just going to say, I do appreciate, Member Chair, that these are verbatim from MSBA, so I appreciate that. But I was just clarifying, so we do not currently have any of these policies in existence? And can you maybe talk a little bit about what your thoughts are there,
Sure.
timing-wise, and adding these at this time, or?
Yeah, we have policies that kind of parallel these. I've seen a lot of policies across the state, and these policies seem to fit. The policies that we currently have in place do fit a pretty common framework. I don't know what framework it was based on. I don't know if it was an older MSBA policy framework, if it was just kind of a state-adopted framework, or what they came from. But my proposal here is that these would replace the 200 series policies. If we look at our 200 series policies, they're largely job descriptions. For example, there is a superintendent of schools job description in there that is very well paralleled with some of the policies that cover the superintendent between 1303 and 1304, and even 1306. But then there's a number of other job description policies that we have, and as we all in the boardroom here recognize, we're a governance organization. We're not really management or the directive of how to handle any staff other than the superintendent. The superintendent is really our prerogative. But by defining a junior high principal policy, we are stating this is what the junior high principal is responsible for, and this is what they do. We no longer have a junior high. So, and that, I would say the same about the Director of Human Resources. It's really not the board's prerogative to direct what the Director of Human Resources does. That is the job of the superintendent. Superintendent is more responsible with, or not more responsible, but more familiar with the strengths or the weaknesses of that individual, how they want to develop their career, how their job description should be written, if they have specific strengths that they can address. Like a lot of our directors serve multi-purposes, and that's really, in my estimation, my opinion, it's beyond the purview of the board to be that directive with staff that we are that far removed from, especially since our legal obligation is to employ a superintendent and to empower our superintendent with those responsibilities. So that's my personal thought on how the 1300 policies kind of roll in and replace the current 200 series. Does that make sense, Member Christensen? Did I address your question?
Yeah.
Member
Corcoran?
Oh, so can we get like the correlating policies to kind of look when we review these? Just to
How they compare?
Yeah.
Yeah, there really isn't any. There's only policy 201, which is the superintendent of schools.
Okay, so that would correlate with kind of what we're looking at.
Correct.
Okay.
These 6 would replace all policies 201 through 214, but 201 is the only one that really has any correlation.
Okay.
And the proposal I'm making this evening is that policies 202 through 214 aren't really board business; they're more superintendent business and should be delegated to him.
Okay.
If I can add, if you go to the MSBA website under policies,
She said that.
you'll see
People look
these
at 'em.
explicitly detailed in the same order,
Okay.
and language in those policies is verbatim to what's in front of you.
Yeah, if I misunderstood your question, yeah, the 1300 series is MSBA 300.
Yeah,
We've just
okay.
pre-pended the 1 to avoid a numbering
Right,
conflict
okay, yep.
in our
Yeah,
policy.
just good to kind of cross-reference if you're comparing
Of
those
course.
to that. I mean, it's just good for me, and for me visually too, to kind of be able to compare them,
Yeah.
look at them
Yeah.
on paper.
Yep. Member Tyson.
So I had a question, and I did look at them on MSBA's website. So where there isn't any MASA references, there weren't any then?
I don't believe
'Cause
so.
that's 3-0.
I will note that I did the work that we're looking at these 1300 policies. I did this work earlier this spring. I
Okay.
believe it was February or March when I grabbed the policy. So there have been updates from them. They're not captured in this proposal here.
Okay. Because when I looked at a few other districts of colleagues that I know, like St. Anthony, New Brighton, Apple Valley, Egan, Rosemount, They had some cross-references with MASA on a few of these, but I can look them up again to get more clarity. But I also wonder, why did you pick all of them? Some school districts only have 3 of these, or they'll have 4, and we have 6.
Yep, I presented all 6 of them because I wanted to present the exact
Okay.
MSBA model exactly
Copy and
as it
paste.
is, and then we decide as a board. When we looked at the 1200 series, even when we looked at policy 515, some of the pushback we've gotten from the community on removing symbols, that was a copy and paste. That was directly from MSBA. We took their directive and then we tune it for our district. So my thought process being we will introduce and propose exactly what MSBA is proposing, and then we fine tune it at the board to customize it for our district.
Okay.
That seemed like the prerogative of the board. I know I heard a lot of interest from the board of any changes or any deviations I had from MSBA. You know, where did this come from? And in most cases, when we were discussing the 1200 series, where did this come from was our current 100 policy series that I was trying to kind of mold together. So rather than repeat that exercise, I felt it was better handled at the board table through amendments. So, yeah, these are exact copy and pastes from MSBA proposal.
Yeah, and I like your new thought pattern and ideas of kind of spreading it out and giving people time to digest and look and read. But I'm just wondering if you chose all 6 of these for any certain reason, but you just took them all and.
No reason whatsoever other than this was the deck that was provided by MSBA.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was hoping that through the review process, through the amendment process,
we
we would maybe decide that we only need 2 of these, we only need
Perfect.
3 of these. Maybe,
Okay.
I'm a fan of merging them when we can.
That's
because
what I was going to say.
I
You
don't,
can merge them too.
in fact, if you remember when we went through the 1200 series, I actually had a whole matrix built up when I did that work of what policies are repetitive and where can we merge them.
Okay.
And it got kind of confusing during our discussion because we did have so many references back to the MSBA model
Okay.
that I just felt like starting at the model was a better starting point for all of us, so we were all on the same page.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions or comments on this, or do we want to move on to 9.1? All right, we have no question on the table, so we'll move to school board work session. Again, school board work session, no limitations on discussion here. Strategic plan update, Dr. Massey.
All right, board, from the previous board meeting, you had a conversation regarding our strategic plan, which is covering the years 2020 through 2025. We are now in the 25-26 school year. So we're at a time where the plan that was written for the previous 5 years has come to an end, creating the need and the opportunity, I would say, to readdress what we have in the strategic plan. Take a look at the horizon in front of us as a school district, the present needs we have in the community, education perhaps more broadly, and assess our strategic plan from the standpoint of, does the plan as written address the needs today and tomorrow? I think you'll see from our presentation that the plan has served us extraordinarily well over the last 5 years. It has been a guidepost for the district and for our work as a district. Yet, I think you'll agree that a lot of the goals that we have here, we have met through our focused and committed effort. Not all of them, and some of the goals are ongoing work, and that'll be part of, I think, the analysis and process to determine, do some of those goals continue, or do we write new goals altogether? So I've asked our director team and some of our staff to assist with the presentation. Many of the focus areas and goals land in their scope of work, so it's been their charge and their responsibility to lead our district effort in those particular areas. So they would certainly be best to speak to those, and they will tonight. To get us started, however, I would take us to well, just the point I add that vibrant school systems have dynamic strategic plans. They become the the operational plan for the district, as well as the inspirational entity and spirit behind the work that we engage in as a district. Our current plan, as I mentioned, was established in 2020 by an extremely large, comprehensive group of folks that provided input. MSBA facilitated the process, and they held focus groups with business leaders, faith community members, parents, early childhood families, retired community members, staff from each of our schools and at all levels, and we even had focus groups, I don't have them listed here, but with high school students and middle school students. The plan structure includes a vision statement, a mission statement, and a set of belief statements, again, crafted by provided input by the various community members, and the overall strategic planning team comprised of 50 community members. It includes 6 focus areas, 10 goals, and action plans related to each objective. The set of belief statements I have in front of you, I know you're familiar with them. Our strategic plan on a page is in front of you at every board meeting. These beliefs are often referenced and spoken to in building staff meetings, building committee work, certainly district committee work, administrative work. We ground ourselves in these set of belief statements. The powerful vision of our district, excellence for every student, every day. That best be our vision, I would offer. A mission that has served us well for the last 5 years, and maybe even into the future, that'll be the work going forward, is to prepare and empower every student to thrive in and contribute to an ever-changing world. I think now, as much as ever, we would agree that we're in the midst of an ever-changing world. And I think it's arguable that the skills that we're giving kids today are perhaps not the skills that they'll need even 5 to 6, 7, 10 years down the road. So what is our task as an educational system in preparing kids for the ever-changing world? We have 6 focus areas that become the framework and the structure of the strategic plan, beginning with excellence in high-quality instruction, excellence in equitable learning opportunities, excellence in career and college and future preparedness, excellence in fostering personal well-being in a safe and respectful environment, excellence in collaboration with families, partners, and the community, and excellence in communication and outreach. And then, as I mentioned, we developed 10 goals aligned with each of those 6 focus areas, beginning with goal number 1. Director Jacobson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Reberline, members of the board, Dr. Massey. Thanks for allowing me to go first. I think what you're going to hear tonight is a lot of familiar information. Many of the things that we have on these slides, the updates that we're going to talk about, are things that we've done and had installed in our school district for years. The last couple of years, our parents are familiar with them. We've shared them at our curriculum instruction and equity committee meetings. We've shared them here across the board. So a lot of this is going to be fairly familiar to you. So one of the things that we wrote within our strategic plan in 2020 was to align ourselves with legislation at the state level at the time called the World's Best Workforce. Our district had long held a practice of writing goals aimed at student learning, student achievement, and then driving toward those goals. Not all districts in the state of Minnesota did that, so the state required that in World's Best Workforce. And so we aligned all of our work with making sure that we were continuing to try to raise the bar on student learning and monitoring our progress, making adjustments, and driving staff development to do that. Those were the goal areas at the time. World's Best Workforce legislation, if you've been tracking that, changed a couple of years ago. It's called something different. It remains largely the same, but again, the premise is the same, is that we focus on learning, tracking learning, setting goals, and then making sure that our curriculum is accessible to every student who walks through the doors of our school, that we meet the needs of every student. So let me give you an update on some of the things that we've done in this regard. So we annually now present the results of our World's Best Workforce. Just to be real clear, it's now called Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness. World's Best Workforce, in my mind, it rolls off the tongue a little bit better. But, that's what it's called, in case you look it up. We present that annually to our Curriculum, Instruction, and Equity Committee, and we post it on our district website for parents and community members to go and find if they're curious. That includes our goals and our progress toward those goals and how we've updated them from one year to the next, and the activities that we're doing as a school district to chase those down. We present our annual goals and solicit input to our business community through our CTE Advisory Council, so they give us in the high school feedback and input on how should we be revising or adjusting or adding goals. Our teams through teaching and learning, building leadership, constantly meet and review and our progress toward those goals, significantly in the spring and over the summer. Starting in 2023, we set aside funds to bring teacher teams from early childhood in all of our buildings in at the beginning of August to gaze backwards and look at all of our student achievement and school climate data from the previous year, and then say, how did we do? And how did we do as it pertains to our goals from last year? And then turning and looking at the upcoming year and writing goals that then drive staff development plans and staff development activities and how we are continuing to grow and improve the results in our system. So as it turns out, our 2025 data retreat took place Tuesday of this week. We had more than 50 educators in our high school media center. It was a great event. It was fun to watch all day long as principals led teacher teams through that work. And then we continue to have the continued implementation of our elementary literacy framework. That's a framework that is really steeped in both research and our core resources that we use through Benchmark Advance in our school district. Making sure that teachers are clear on what are the teacher moves and strategies that we're doing in the elementary classroom, focused on the science of reading. And then one of the things I've presented recently to this board is about the READ Act and the professional development that we've been doing, again, aimed at the science of reading. We selected, if you recall, Letters, which is probably the most comprehensive of the 3 approved programs that the state gave us. It's a 2-year program. I would say graduate level learning for teachers. Some of the other programs could be accomplished in 1 year. We took on a bigger hill to climb. And so we have focused on that, and the state about a year ago delayed the implementation of phase 2, yet we're going to move forward with components of phase 2 because we don't want to waste. So grades 4 and 5 are going to move forward this year, even though other districts in the state have selected a different pathway there, which is fine. And then we have developed a secondary instructional framework that has guided the work for Kelly Jean, Jim Caldwell, Jason Miller, and how they're continuing to, again, not only acknowledge that we've got great educators, but how do we point them down a similar pathway of here's what a great instruction looks like and how we do this together. I've got more to share. We have expanded training in our schools on being responsive to the different students and their backgrounds in our school district. We use the term cultural responsive teaching, and it really, in our district, the way that we frame that is we understand a lot about the students sitting in front of us, and we leverage what we know about them to make connections with new ideas and information. If I can say this is similar to something a student is already familiar with, that sort of connection is stickier. So we do that. We make sure that in our classrooms, we foster learning environments where students work as a team. They work together. That's part of this particular model. And then we ensure that our students feel comfortable and welcomed in their classrooms and in hallways. And when they see things in their curriculum, when they see things on the wall, it reflects familiarity to them. And we think that's important. We have continued to evolve instructional review so that we make sure that all of our instruction and our core resources are aligned with our local state standards. We've rebuilt instructional review to do that work in the last 5 years. We've got a team of, if you recall, 6 coaches that we made a change in how that work was done about a year and a half ago. 6 coaches that I'll talk more about in a few bullets that lead that work. We developed pacing guides across the elementary level so that teachers can focus on the art of how to teach, and we, through teams, focus on, together, across the district, what they teach. So what a student gets in a 3rd grade classroom at one building is the same in another. And so those pacing guides are tied to the local standards that I mentioned earlier. We have adopted a new core resource program at early childhood that we brand and we make sure parents are aware of as they enter our early childhood programs called Frog Street. The team, the early childhood team, if you're curious, is entering year 3 of the Frog Street curriculum. We brought, again, a huge team together to vet a whole host of different options. This is the one that really caught their attention because of the way that it fits with what we want to do and the research behind it. We have instructional coaches. We are really gifted with 6 instructional coaches. I would say 7 with Brittany Hirsch, but also 2 in science, 2 in math, 2 in literacy, who work with our teachers K-12. They stay on top of changes in standards. They are constantly reading best practice and new research. They are going into classrooms and saying, let me take over and you can watch me and I'll model for a little bit. Or watching a teacher and giving feedback. They get a sense of what's working and what's not working in our classrooms, design staff development on that, and they are also the content area experts that lead the instructional review I mentioned earlier. This past spring, we wrote an ADSYS aid application which is really exciting. We had academic support specialists doing powerful work in the past, and we were able to write an ADSYS aid application that's going to bring about $1.4 million into our district to augment and even grow the number of interventionists that we have in our schools at the elementary level, which is great to know that we're doing that even as we're going from 7 to 6 elementary schools. We also were awarded an MTSS grant. It's a 1-year grant. We're looking for that to really hit the ground and doing great work. And again, that is focused on assessing the health of our intervention systems and our diagnostic tools so that if a student is learning, we can drill down and determine exactly what it is that they're struggling at. Watching and coaching our intervention teams, doing fidelity checks on our interventions to make sure that they are being they have been implemented with the right way, and if not, we're going to coach the teacher on that. And then, of course, we've got math and reading for across our elementary schools and in early childhood this year, which is really great. Goal area 2, I worked together with Donna Friedman, our Director of Human Resources and Administration, and that one was really focused on attracting, then developing, and then retaining high-quality educators. First, we wanted to say, how do we define them? And so we spent some time putting together a list of characteristics that we would say reflect high-quality instructors. We created a plan that I think the board is well aware of and how we plan to implement, recruit, and then retain those educators. And then, and here's the things that we did. We had that group meet and we developed those list of characteristics on focused instruction, culture for learning, assessing student learning and then responding to that, making sure that students can transfer their learning to new and novel situations. I'm not just repeating information you told me, but I can use information in a unique situation. Then we developed, as a way to continue to grow and add clarity to this, we developed a secondary instructional framework and an elementary literacy framework that we use to, again, create clarity in the classroom for teachers. Here is the game plan for how we do this in Forest Lake Area Schools, and a guidepost for how what we need to do as we design staff development. I would also share in pretty close to finalized form, our math coaches, looking at the newest math standards and some research on math instruction, have worked on, or we're close to developing a math instructional framework at the elementary level too. We, as I mentioned, we focused on developing instructional review, and then I should mention, not only pulling teachers in to take the time to dig in and develop a comprehensive, agreed-upon curriculum, but then plans for sustainability, where we circle back and check in with them after we've implemented something to make sure that the data is suggests that it's working the way that we want it to. We surveyed staff across the district on what their experience has been working for us, being a teacher in the school district. I think we all agree that attracting and then retaining high-quality teachers is something we definitely want to do. So we did this, and then we pulled together a group of teachers to look at that data and make recommendations on how do we continue to keep our best and most talented without seeing them go to districts that sometimes are closer to home or might pay a bit more.
JP, just real quick on that last slide, I think it's a good opportunity to share that as we met to plan this presentation, it was really tempting to label each of these goals complete. But as you can see, attracting and retaining is never complete. Some of the work, yes, we've brought to fruition, and we're on to the next iteration of that. But I'm not sure for some of these goals you really reach we've accomplished them. And that's just the nature of the goals.
Yeah, I would say in many ways we never see ourselves as finished.
Yeah.
We constantly work together. One of the things that we could say that we continue to do is we send representatives to local job fairs to meet with and attract teachers at those job fairs who might not have thought about considering employment in Forest Lake and attracting them, particularly in areas that are sometimes really hard to fill. We've expanded our reach in how we post positions to attract more applicants. Because we are predominantly a district that doesn't have a lot of staff of color, we've met with our staff of color and learned from them about their experiences in our district and why they choose to continue to stay and work with us. We maintain information on where staff go and when they leave our district, and at times impossibly ask them the reasons for leaving. Why is it that they left? This board has worked at increasing salary and wages for our staff in order to be regionally competitive, which was certainly an important thing. Our teachers need and deserve that. We've implemented double lane change credit for certain continuing education programs that we find are high leverage toward increasing student learning. Reading certifications, math certifications, master's degrees in content areas. And then we've developed and implemented a PTO system that gives our teachers greater flexibility in how they use the personal time off and awards them if they choose not to use it. I'm going to turn it over to one of our coordinators, Mr. Ward, for the next goal.
Good evening, board. I have the pleasure to report on goal 3, which was identifying and transforming systems that contribute to inequities. I wasn't the only one who coordinated this. Carolyn Latati and Kenny Newby were a part of this before retirement and moving on to other opportunities. The first point of this one, you'll see under the note, was to establish a district-wide advisory committee that was going to be named by that committee as it formed and worked together. This group of stakeholders included parents, students, community members, licensed and classified staff, administrators, and anyone else that was a stakeholder in the district. Our first objective was to create and implement a plan to enhance cultural competency among staff and students. So in order to do that, we did have our establishment of this district-wide steering team. In 5 years, we had 35-plus meetings that had participation collectively of well over 60 people, and they carried out this work. The first thing that they did was create an educational equity inventory, which was the needs assessment that was developed and given to licensed staff. This was created during year 1 and given in the spring of that year. That in turn, those results were given to staff development teams, principals, and teaching and learning to work together to implement the needs where staff self-identified that they wanted some more training in order to better meet the needs of their students. This was also given a second time a couple of years later to incorporate any new staff that were coming into our system, as well as seeing if we were moving the needle in some of the previous areas so that we could be as responsive as possible to our staff needs. The next thing that we looked at is that the licensed education staff is 425 people, yet we employ many, many more. So this group went and modified the original inventory to something that would be more relevant for non-licensed staff. That was given during year 2, and then followed up with that, we were providing, I didn't realize I was in charge of this. We were providing the training that went along with that. And one example was the para group reached out to us in the winter of '23 to provide them with training and resources to better meet the needs of each of their students. The second parts of Goal 3, identify and develop consistent and regular activities to make all students feel welcome at all grade levels, and establish a process to annually identify and develop programming and practices to eliminate gaps in learning, opportunities, and resources across the district. So looking at the progress that we have made here, one of the initial things that happened in tandem with the creation of the staff inventory was the creation of a group of teams at each of our sites. We referred to them as safe space teams that had a systematic and programmatic response anytime we had some complaints that were either self-identified or reported to staff, so that it could be responded to and turned into a teaching moment as quickly as possible. We continue to have those in place and have refined it as the plan has gone forward. Administration and teaching staff work closely together with this. Along with that, it was identified that primary level students were not necessarily understanding, and so to better welcome them into the school, there was an in-house curriculum that was implemented by the fall of '22, and that goes along with some of our SEL work that we've been working on. This group also worked on creating a set of focus group questions for principals and faculty leaders to give to students and student groups for their feedback about their experiences at the school. Again, this provided feedback so that leaders could then make some adjustments and improvement to the student experience and learning. Director Jacobson mentioned earlier, but it's an ongoing process in the instructional review teams to make sure that our curricular resources represent the broader community and our students. Right, also in the beginning of the program, implemented was the student leadership program within the 5th grade. Every student had the opportunity to participate, and we've had close to 98 to 99% of our students participate, now going on into the 6th year. All new educators have been reading Zaretta Hammond's book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain, to better be able to, again, meet the needs of our changing students. And finally, the last one, identifying and transforming systems that contribute to inequities. These are the things that we've been meeting on most recently. The first thing was identifying what is it that makes students feel welcomed and a sense of belonging when they come into our doors. And is this something that is resonating with each of the students? So the team worked hard to identify what those practices and methods might be in creating a welcoming school environment. You can say it, but that doesn't necessarily make it so. So what is it specifically? And then once we identified on those traits, the last thing that this group did over the course of the last year was to identify practices and factors, qualitative data that leaders could collect and report for equitable learning opportunities via student feedback. Areas that were focused on included engagement. Do the students feel challenged when they're in their classrooms, challenged academically, that is? Do they receive feedback, actionable feedback from their peers and their instructors, and are they given time for reflection? So as I mentioned, we fine-tuned that this year and hope that we can initiate this so that we can then start reporting on these pieces going forward.
On back up. Next goal area, next two goal areas. Principal Caldwell is going to join me because there will be both parts of this. I'm sure that he'll want to speak to you. A lot of work, particularly at the secondary level, but with Tether's back at the elementary, that has really done a great job of preparing, basically enhancing every student's academic, technical, professional skills, preparing them for their eventual career path, helping guide them through the process of selecting what they want to do for a career, creating opportunities for them to experience that, establishing partnerships with families, so parents can sit down at the table and help students plot out their middle level and high school course load that they're going to take. Something that you have heard me talk about a number of times, perhaps at nauseum, is the development of gateway courses in each of the 6 career pathway areas at the middle school, which I think is a real gold star for our district, quite honestly, in that every student really has to taste everything on their academic plate, so to speak, from a would I really ever consider a career in business or in agriculture or in engineering and mathematics? And so those are the things that we've worked on. I'll give you an update here. So the high school has implemented Ranger Connect program using Zello. I might even just let Mr. Caldwell talk a little bit about that.
I certainly can.
Yeah.
We implemented Ranger Connect. It's actually a 0.25 credit each year, so a student gets 1 full credit by the time that they go through high school, utilizing Zello, which is really a Facebook for high schoolers. They get everything there from their career pathways, our course registration guide, their 4-year plan is on there, and just a plethora of information that kids can dive into through survey data, helping to identify their career pathways, what fits for them, where they want to go, where they want to be. They can experiment with different careers, what it takes to be successful in that career, what kind of education they need, how much they're going to cost, all of those things, which really led into the rest of this slide with our career pathway work and our CTE areas, kids choosing courses that fit their career pathway, our employability skills, which is really the result of working with our CTE advisory groups, listening to them with them telling us what they need these students to do for them when they come out, which happens to tie into ones with research and things like that. Those things are embedded in all our courses and our PBIS matrix for the school. Our middle school with their learning statement, Mr. Jacobson will probably have a little bit more there as soon as I'm done. But that really provides those middle schoolers with a base coming to the high school, so they're coming into the plan.
Yeah, it really drives the sort of learning experiences that we know kids benefit from. Again, not being asked to just regurgitate information, but creators, appliers of information, working together, being creative, having and experiencing academic rigor, learning to fail and pick themselves up academically and continue to progress forward. All of those sorts of things that we know that benefit them long-term in life. You know, just say in terms of some of the career pathway work we've done just in the last 4 years, members of this board have gone through courses including exploring medical careers, robotics and automation. We're constantly looking at our high school course offerings and trying to see are there gaps here based on what our advisory boards are telling us, and how can we can fill those gaps in. Yeah, and I think I mentioned earlier the 6 career pathway courses that developed at the middle level that every student take previously in 7th and 8th grade. Now they take them in 6th and 7th grade, with most of the now electives happening in 8th grade, including healthy living. We talked about we aren't just about careers, but we're also how do you live as a healthy adult, including making nutritious, dense foods, managing a budget, a household budget, and those sorts of things. The career pathway guide, I think everyone on the board is well aware of it. Parents in our community is well aware of this. This is the tool that we use to help give parents information to sit down with their students upon entering high school, and what are our career pathways, what are the courses in each pathway, how can I plot that out over the course of my 4 years in high school, knowing that if I choose a pathway in 9th grade, I can change that pathway 2 or 3 more times between now and my senior year, and I still stay on track to graduate. And then it's also available online at all times. And we create activities, experiences in grades 6 through 12 that tie to career experiences. Like, for example, I just used one here, the middle school Shark Tank, and it isn't really that dangerous. Instead, what it is we want to show students in a business world that you might spend some time doing research, identifying a product or service that might not currently exist, creating a prototype, testing that prototype out by presenting it to others, taking that feedback in, going back and changing their prototype, presenting it again, all in terms of trying to design something that others would have an interest in, perhaps have an interest in buying. And doing that sort of iterative process in a team is exactly what our business owners are saying. Do more of this in your schools. I'll turn it over to Mr. Paul Wolf for the last 3 there.
Well, the last 3, bringing in guest speakers that are pertinent to specific careers and those career pathways, which are really open to all of our teachers. Molly Bonnet and her work does a lot bringing students in, so students during lunch periods can come listen to different presentations. Our career launch program, which we had a grant to get that started with Mr. Miron, where students who have a career pathway can take a class as a junior and senior and spend the second half of their year out working in a paid internship. And we've expanded that not just to our CTE courses supported through Perkins and anything, but really all of our jobs and career pathways. Students can go get opportunities to work after coming out of this program. It is one of the only classes that students can take at the high school, get multiple credits year after year. They can actually take it twice their junior and senior year. And then really our career days and fairs. And some people say, well, what's the difference? When you go to a career fair, we have different employers in our area come in, set up, students go around, they're actually looking for jobs in the summer, asking them questions, they learn a plethora of things. Those career days, each student goes to 8 different career days. We have one in the spring, we have one in the fall, we have hundreds of people come in from our different connections and do presentations, and we encourage kids to explore different pathways as they do that. And you ask yourself, what happens to that kid? My son, he decided he wanted to teach right away. He always wanted to go to the teacher one because we always have different teachers talk. but there's other things tied to teaching. What other areas can we go sign up for? So as seniors, we've added things like interviewing, resume writing, and things like that.
In goal area 5, we really pushed us as a system to find ways to grow both life skills both in and out of the classroom. First, identifying with stakeholders, industry stakeholders, what are those essential skills and dispositions that they want our students to grow and develop and have upon graduation. And then also encourage students to get involved in passion area projects, even outside of the school day, whether those be in clubs, activities, the arts, sports, that sort of thing. So what we did is we sat down with our local businesses. We had a rich multi-meeting conversation around what are they looking for beyond technical skills, beyond academic skills. I think you heard me talk a bit about this in terms of the business aspect as one example. But here are the things that they talked about. They would like us to build or design, work on with our students. And if you look at that in terms of communication, time management, taking initiative, solving problems, persevering, professionalism, I think everybody would look on that list and say, yeah, that's exactly what it is that we're looking for in our people that we would want to hire, graduates that we'd like to see.
JP, before you move on,
Yes,
and I mentioned this earlier, the power of this strategic plan is it drove some of this work. We wouldn't have this without the strategic plan that we have. If we were to survey this board, survey our parents, and we ask them, tell us what's important for you, for your child. I would venture to say that high math skills might not be the number one thing they say, but it might be something on this list. Teach my child how to get along with others and critical think and problem solve and communication skills, how to get along with others and persevere. It's not that high math skills in reading and science aren't critical, they are. But these are deeply valued by our parents and our families and, of course, our community, if not even our workforce.
Very good.
We've developed a flex time at the middle school in the last couple of years, in which students can have time built into the week that they can participate and engage in different types of activities that come up from time to time that they co-design with teachers of interest to build interest, whether it be robotics or whether it be something in the foods kitchen, that they can do that. It's also a great time for students who just need to go and meet with a teacher to make up something or to go over something again. They can use this time. The middle school has rebranded design thinking for you business owners. You probably are familiar with what that is. It's the iterative process that I've described really lightly and real quickly a few minutes ago, and they have branded it as the I create process. Again, it's about research, it's about development, it's about presentation, it's about refinement, it's all of those different things. We've developed our career exploration opportunities across all secondary grades. I think Mr. Caldwell just spoke to those a moment ago, as well as leveraging Zello as a tool within Ranger Connect. And I would add, it's also a great tool for after students have spent time researching a career and what it takes to what that career involves, but also provides them information on which colleges or universities offer degree programs in that area.
And also, it's a lifetime account for the students. So when the student leaves Forest Lake Area High School, they don't lose the work that they put into Zello. They still have access to all of the stuff they did. They can add to it. They can continue to use it free of charge after they've gone through the high school. It's really powerful program. Currently looking at middle school. We want the sixth grade's been added. As you guys know, there's been a lot of change going on. They're not quite ready to add Zello at the middle school yet, but they do have a middle school component that would pair really well with the direction that they're going.
All right, next up we have goal number 6, which is talking about the well-being and the safe and respectful learning environments. So there were 2 goals, then area goal 1 was more around the students and their social emotional health. And then goal 2 was more around our staff. So there is the next slide is going to be a summary of what Dr. Massey was just talking about, that the strategic plan was guiding us through these steps. And without this plan, I'm not sure if all these steps would have really happened. But starting back in 2000, we worked with the Department of Education and created a district critical needs team. We did not have a tier 1 curriculum for students' social emotional health. Our teachers were doing different things, especially around their elementaries, and it was effective for students, but it wasn't consistent. So what our elementaries were getting was different. And so this allowed us to really explore. And in 21-22, we started the implementation K through 8 of the Step and Step curriculum. And in 23-24, we continued with the implementation, and we are now in year 5 of that implementation stages. And I have a graph in the next slide that shows what that does for our students. But the second step use of that is really working towards the emotional health of our students and how they're working through, and like I say, that consistency among the elementary buildings. And then also, if you look on our website under the Teaching and Learning tab, there is the Relationship Matters, which is our commitment to the anti-bullying, which follows our state statute where we're required to do the anti-bullying. Second Step did create a lesson that aligned within the Second Step series for our elementary and our educators to provide anti-bullying teaching, and so that part is in there as well. Then on objective 2, building resilient educators. So as we talk about the hiring and retaining, part of that is also how do we have educators that can go through some stressful days, have that resiliency, and continue on. We also know that the research behind having educators who have strong resilience also supports our students, which goes back to the Relationship Matters. When we have a healthy environment from our educators, it funnels on down to our students. And so we did a group of us did a cohort with the Department of Education around educator resilience. It was a book study. And then a couple of us brought that back to the district where we created our own 12-month series where teachers went through that cohort. And so as you can see here, the number of staff that went through educator resilience and this book, Onward by Amy Aguilar, was just our foundational piece. And when we put up there as educators, because it included our teaching staff, it also included our paraprofessionals, our administrators, and then the teachers that brought it, they brought it back into their buildings. So this year, we have decided for 25-26, we're actually going to hit pause for a year because it's been saturated. We will bring different pieces into the, like for new teachers and some for the special education. And in another year or so, we'll probably bring it back. This work also has been brought to other districts around the state. So it's another one of those things to be proud of that supports teachers' growth. So this, you can't see that there. No. Okay, so the lines go from 0.75 and then down from the left to the right down to the 1, and these dots are the implementation of Second Step. So when you think about the implementation, the data shows that the higher implementation of Second Step and working on students' social emotional learning skills, the lower number of office referrals. So this data is something that we were able to look over the course of the years and see as staff implement the curriculum, the more at a higher rate that it's implemented, the less amount of office referrals that we receive. So it demonstrates that there is some great progress.
All right, the remaining 4 goals I will be covering. I had the responsibility of overseeing goals 7 and 8, and then our amazing communications coordinator, Renee Reedy, who was overseeing 9 and 10. She wasn't able to be here tonight, but we actually worked a lot of these in tandem. If you think goals 1 through 6 is a lot of the internal working of the district, 7 through 10 becomes our bridge to outside of the district, our parents, our families, our broader business community, and how the school district becomes an integral role and part of the community. So goal 7, provide communication and enhance collaboration between our schools and families. Each of the last 4 years, over the last 4 years, we've surveyed our families really to do a survey on what their family experience has been like in the district, a satisfaction survey, if you will. I put the link on there. It's in the PowerPoint presentation. It's also on our district website, the survey results there. But one of the important pieces when it comes to this goal was how do our families want to be communicated with? Communication is a two-way street. You send out a message, it's not communication until it's received. And if it's not being received in the manner and platform at which it's best received by that family, then our communication doesn't land home, and we have all sorts of problems. So there was a scale from 1 to 8, and it came down to, on the left side, school communications, and on the right side, district communications. What's fascinating was this, I put them in ranking order of lowest to highest. It was the same on both sides.
Oh my gosh.
Now, there's a few, I think, takeaways here from this data that we use internally. One is email was the most preferred, and it was pretty significant. We think about back to school coming up here soon, and there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come out, and nobody wants to get all of those paragraphs of information via text. So email, of course, becomes a preferred method so that I know where it's at, I know where I can go get it, and I know that I can check it and get to it on my time. However, the other fascinating piece here is that it was a scale of 1 to 8, and these were the averages for each of these sectors, which means all of them were very important, and they each serve their own role. Our website is not the best provider of all things communication, and so for our sake, saying, well, it's on the website, so we're good, you got the information, of course, isn't necessarily the best platform of communicating, but we also know that the website becomes a great tool for communication as well as marketing our district. Same with Facebook and all the way back up to email preferences. So out of that work, we of course have our school board communications committee, and this is where we do meet monthly and talk through topics on how do we then utilize that last piece of information to best serve our communication with our families. And I gave this update a couple board meetings ago that we've come a long way in our district, I think, in how we communicate with our families, knowing, much like we talked about with the accomplishment of goals, it's like chasing the horizon. You never get there, but you get better and better every day as you keep taking steps forward. We give weekly administrative updates at our ad council regarding district and building social media communication, what's out there, what we want to feature, what our families want to see, and how we showcase our schools. And then ongoing training for staff and on communication strategies, customer service, and best practices. How do we communicate that? Of course, we all know that we live in a world of AI, and just throwing messages into AI and saying, well, this message is good, is not the most tactful and best practice in terms of getting a message out there. However, it can be a useful tool when used wisely to get a message that's clear and concise so that it's received by the recipient. Goal 8, seek out, enhance, build family and community partnerships to meet the needs of each student. And this one, it had my name and Renee's name up there. Dr. Massey brings community leaders together on an annual basis, just get updates on what's going out in our communities, give an update on the school of what's going on to those communities from what we have internally here. And I put on here, Reimagine 2025. And I think it's important to note this because it fit the strategic plan. When the strategic plan came about in 2020, we knew that there were a list of action steps and items that we wanted to do, but it was never the intent of the plan to say, okay, we're going to do these, check the box, and move on because we're supposed to check the box. I can recall many times sitting around a table, even with our community ed team,
our administrative team or some sort of committee and thinking through whatever direction we're going to go and asking ourselves or reflecting upon how it aligns with the strategic plan. And when I think of Reimagine 2025, shifting sixth grade to the middle school, closing Forest Lake Elementary, the rebounding process, and how we leverage our community partners through community conversations, input sessions, surveys, gathering as much stakeholder input as possible so that when the decision and recommendation back to the board was made, it was made as a reflection of what our community partners were saying. And then working with Goal 9, which is our next one in the communications team, to plan events, bringing community leaders and partners together. We did about halfway through the 2020 to 2025. We did run a community of communities event at the high school where we invited many different community leaders and business leaders and partners in the community and stakeholders alliance to come in and really just talk about collaboration, idea sharing, and knowing that Forest Lake area schools is not just Forest Lake proper, but really, and this was a tagline that came out of the creation of the strategic plan, we're a community of communities. And how do we leverage all of the communities to not only make the school district stronger, but also make each of the surrounding communities and Forest Lake stronger as well. Goal 9, create a community of communities, and that's getting into that last component that I said. So working again together on this. I'll move on to the next one. Through the CTE advisory groups, leverage business partners and relationships. Thinking about how we're going forward and creating the next wave of future workers and getting our local businesses to come in and give us the feedback that we need, as well as creating those really synergistic alliances so that we can start handing off the next wave of leaders into the working community and do it as prepared as possible. It was mentioned earlier, partner with the Chamber of Commerce. We have the upcoming, and that's been an annual event of the Education and Business event that we welcome new educators and all the local businesses. Many of are part of the Chamber that can attend the event, come to the event, and it's a great way of bringing the new folks in our district together and really putting them in front of businesses and businesses in front of them, and celebrating the fact that we have that strong collaboration and partnership with the Chamber, helping out at their annual golf tournament every year and being visible not just for the Chamber to help them guide their event, but also being present and out at golf holes and interacting with business leaders in our community with that face-to-face interaction. So we've learned desire for business partnerships and workforce development. There's interest in the community and community connections and community events. I don't think that's any secret here. Schools can be intergenerational community spaces. And then going to the last goal, promote and celebrate the opportunities that make the Forest Lake Area School District an educational leader. We spent a lot of time, of course, working on our enrollment marketing. I think in education we say this a lot, that we aren't always the best at boasting. We do the work, we pride ourselves in the work, we don't always shout it from the rooftops, knowing full well that we have an amazing product, amazing system here, people doing amazing things, and making sure that we are putting that out there to our community to know that we're always looking for ways to improve. We talked about our district promotions, district brochure printed this summer. There'll be new updates, annual summer mailing to all district residents. That's actually in process right now, which will be coming out here to start the school year, and then continue looking forward opportunities to promote success stories to audience beyond the Forest Lake area. And again, there was an article in it was the Star Trib on the CTE program here in Forest Lake and putting our best foot forward.
So you gave us the task of providing some information and recommendation for the next step. Thank you for indulging us over the last hour to walk through the various components of the strategic plan. We think it's important for us to keep that work in front of us, to celebrate the work, to acknowledge that we're not a finished product, yet we are doing some really amazing things. with that in mind, and to the task that you gave us, it brings us to what's the next step with respect to process for addressing the next strategic plan, developing the next strategic plan, including how does that process get facilitated, the level and extent of community input, board participation in that process, a plan that addresses and speaks to the duration and scope of the plan duration, again, belief, vision, mission, components, focus areas, and goals. I don't know that you were asking specifically for an administrative recommendation, but I would provide this to you. This plan benefited from the comprehensive, broad community input. I think we as a system benefited from the comprehensive nature of the plan. I know 10 goals takes a while to get through, but it speaks to, as Director McKinnon indicated, the first 6 are kind of the core mission academic work, but how do we position ourselves and engage with and bridge ourselves into the broader community is also a part of the strategic plan, and I would argue are valuable parts of the plan. There are many groups that, well, not many probably, but several groups that provide facilitation. I think there's some wisdom in getting somebody independent to facilitate this work so that we can participate and not lead the work necessarily. This plan was facilitated by the Minnesota School Boards Association. I think they did a marvelous job through that process, specifically Gail Gilman from MSBA. TeamWorks does this work as well. So with that background and information, I would turn it back to the board for your discussion on how you'd like to see this process move forward.
All right. Does anybody want to kick off discussion here?
Okay.
Member Anderson? Yeah.
Is this presentation that we have here tonight going to be available to, is it already?
Yeah, I meant to email it, and I realized as we started that I may not have done that. So I did ask at the beginning of the meeting for Director Jacobson to push it out to your email, and
Oh, maybe he,
I think Director Jacobson, were you able to do that?
and the other question,
It's on its
Okay,
way.
there we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
is it printable for us at all?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information here
Because,
to
yeah,
digest.
it's, I have one printed up, the basic goals, but not all this work that's been included into making them. So it's nice to have that reference.
Yeah.
Printed copies,
And
nice.
Yep,
thank
we'll
you.
get it out, and may be on its way.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else?
I
Member
just-
Tyson?
I just want to say thank you to our directors for such a great update. I'm just always so profoundly struck at what continuity it gives our district to have the strategic plan as our guiding force. And some of the things in the core goals of 1 through 6 I see are mandated by the READ Act, and we've already been doing it. And it's just so impressive that we have that forward thinking staff and goals going on in our district. And I just think that the literacy piece is just so valuable with the instructional coaches and, I mean, everything that's going on at the high school with our career pathways. And by the way, I was out to lunch with a friend's grandson and her, and he said to me, I want to go to Forest Lake and have Zello. He's a 9th grader. I'm not going to say where he goes. I don't want to call anybody out. And at the time I went, Zello? And so then I realized later, but then Mr. Caldwell was talking about it tonight. That is just very, very unique to have that, and then it goes with you, and you have that as a Facebook, and you're working towards your career path. So anyway, I digress here, but I just think everything that we're doing, and I have some questions that I'll ask JP about later, like we've always had MTSS, and so now is there a grant because of it's in the READ Act and it's mandatory, so they came out with a grant. But I'll check with him later, so I'm rambling. But anyway, I'd be for the facilitation piece only because I went through that before, and I think it just gives you kind of a smooth, viable way to look big picture and to do the work. I think I've talked to colleagues that have done it other ways. I know Teamworks did 916's strategic plan. And I just think if you don't have that guiding group, you're just kind of shooting in the dark and maybe not covering all your bases cohesively, so.
Member
Anyway,
Haglund?
I'm done.
Okay. I thank you for the presentation. I think there was a lot of information in there that I'd like to have time to digest before really discussing too in-depth on the table here. So I don't know what the rest of the board's feelings are on that, but I know personally, just with all that information, I'd like to go back and go through the presentation again at home so I can write down more questions before we get too in-depth on next steps. I feel like this was more of a information download to us. Maybe postpone getting too much into next steps until a future discussion. I hate to prolong it anymore, but with the month in information. The only thing I do want to call out Director Jacobson on. See him back there.
Working.
JP, you mentioned when you were speaking first about teachers being rewarded for not using all of their PTO. That I would not recommend. PTO is to rest, recuperate, re-engage. I would actually discourage teachers from not using their PTO and encourage them to use it, because summers they have off. A lot of them I know have other jobs in summer, but during the school year, they should be encouraged to take their PTO when they can so that they can come back and be fully engaged in the classroom. That's my only feedback that I have written down for immediately.
Member Corcoran?
Well, also, thanks all the directors for a wonderful presentation. It's just a lot of work that's been going into this for many years, and just to see the progress that's been made over the many years, it's impressive. And if you don't have goals set, you don't know how you're doing. So truly quite the accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
So I do thank everyone for that. And I do agree with a facilitator down the road. But I also agree it's a lot to go through, especially for the new board members. I mean, it's a lot of information, and it is good to have it printed so you can read through it and kind of write notes and kind of digest the information. I don't know what timeline, Dr. Massey, that we're looking at for when we want to accomplish this goal. I mean,
Yeah,
is
I-
that one at all?
Yeah, there is no.
Okay, there's no immediate timeline.
yeah.
Okay,
No, the strategic plan, it's dated 2020 to 2025.
yeah.
Technically, we have a few months left to
Yeah,
2025,
so we have
but
some
I
time.
don't see why we would stop doing any of this work.
Right.
Like, if the board, if we take into 2026
Okay. We just have
to
some
finish
time.
our work, I don't see why this plan would not just continue.
Yeah, well, I don't want to
That's
rush it.
my
I think
thought, yeah.
it's such an important thing. We want to do it right, and we want to take our time to do it right. So, but I also want guidance and expertise to help us guide it, because it is a very intense document. So, like I say, guiding the new board members through the process is going to be really important, I think.
Remember Edison?
Maybe I've asked this and I don't remember already, but do you remember how long it took to do it the last time? I mean, it sounds like there,
It was long.
you know, I've looked at the plan many times, but obviously this is all new information here that tonight. Had no idea that there was all these different groups working on this strategic plan. So.
This was approved in December of
I took a
2019 or 2020. I'd have to go back and look, but we started early fall,
Okay.
and it took a good 3 months to work with all those different committees, provide the input, write, bring it to the board, first reading, second reading.
And how do you choose the community members you're going to bring in to work on this, you know, to collaborate with? How do you choose who they are? I mean, there's already been, you've had the reimagine and this redistricting. I don't know, even remember how you did that. I chose the people to bring in to work on that. Did they apply? Was it a random, like, draw of a hat? I don't know.
Yeah, in some cases, it's a general, please come. In the case of Reimagine and some of the other committees, we ask principals to identify 2 or 3 parents in their building who are involved maybe in PTO or otherwise, and reach out to them. And yeah, so there are a lot of different ways to reach out to folks. Folks are busy, and getting them to engaged can be a challenge, given how busy people can be.
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of engagement over the last few months, and I think that we have a lot of people that are interested, so.
I agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point too. Not only will it take the board time to digest the information we just got here, but I think it's important that the community digest and see what we've accomplished and see this presentation, have an opportunity to review this meeting. And the strategic plan is quite verbose. There's 7 pages here, so there's a lot to digest when you look at it. In fact, when reflecting back on when I decided to file and run for school board, I set up a meeting with Dr. Massey, and we sat down, and I believe my very first question was, here's the strategic plan, walk me through it. I don't know if you remember that meeting, but we went through the strategic plan kind of top to bottom, and kind of reflected on what does it mean for the district, and how have we been doing on that, and where do we need to seek improvement. Member Christensen.
Yeah, excuse me, I just had a comment kind of along the lines of some of the other folks, but, I mean, I feel like this strategic plan is really important. I mean, it might look different, maybe we don't have 10 goals, I don't know, but this is really sort of a roadmap that each of the schools and all of us together, we do all the work that we do because of this plan's direction, so I think that is really important. And then to Member Hagelin's point, to just be able to kind of noodle on some of this stuff. I mean, a few things I wrote down, I didn't realize that preschool has reading corps now. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And also some of the other conversations we've been having about different employee groups and losing some longtime employees on the the class. When we get the list of when people are leaving, that's what I'm trying to say. I think Mr. Jacobson said that they were doing some surveys about employees and maybe why they're leaving and some of those things. And I understand that would be confidential data. I understand that, but maybe there'd be a way to kind of, black out who the person is. But it would be interesting to know why some of our long-term teachers, especially, and other staff, special ed staff, other staff are leaving or moving on. And of course, there's lots of reasons for that. But I mean, those were a couple things that I wrote down during the presentation that I would like more information on.
Mm-hmm.
Member Anderson.
So I think one of my starting points that I would want it to be is all the administrators who were just up here presenting their part that they engaged with this process the last time, what their interest is in the next steps, how we even further these goals. That's a point of interest for me, is to hear from them on that.
That's a really good idea.
That's a good point.
Member Castle.
So one thing that was kind of hinted at but not directly said is work ethic. The vast majority of businesses, if you have a work ethic, that's something to work with. If you don't have it, most of these other things aren't going to bring you anywhere that you want to go. And they're not going to, it doesn't provide accomplishment. If you don't have a work ethic, you're not going to get very far. So I don't know if that's something that can be directly stated to be added to that. And then the other thing that Shark Tank reminded me of is that I don't see entrepreneurship. I see working for somebody else, working for somebody else. How about work for yourself, self-employment? If we could add something in that, now how do you get people to come in and foster that?
I think that's a super fair point. You'll see in our business career pathway, entrepreneurship courses.
I've seen that, yes.
So we certainly provide that opportunity for kids. Yeah.
And,
Go ahead, Member
well,
Castle.
I was just going to say, in response to your thoughts there on this work ethic, are those workability skills set that they're talking about? I think those kind of are the same.
Well, you can have skills.
I know.
But if you don't have the ethic, the
Right,
skills
that's-
don't do much.
Right.
I've been promoted largely just because I put my nose to the grindstone and get it done.
Yeah.
And then even go beyond and learn other things. And
I get you. Okay.
Member Tyson?
Well, and to that point, Member Castle, that's so true, and so part of that for me is I'm proud of the fact that we do have a lot of rigor in our coursework, and I think that that's where they'll develop a strong work ethic. And then in the core part that Director Jacobson reported on, they have the I Create, which I really like that aspect of it, where students are creating and mirroring it off and each other and building those soft skills to be those dedicated core workers when they get into the job market.
There certainly is a lot to digest here.
It is.
And the conversation you're beginning to have is the conversation that the process will draw out and provide that level of input and direction on the plan. Yep. The board participation is going to be really key.
Okay, let me pose a couple of questions here. I have a couple of notes from what I've gathered here from the discussion, is that we'd be interested in facilitation of the process, or at least entertaining the idea of facilitation. So I think it'd be a fair ask to administration to look into obtaining quotes on facilitation, especially being fresh off the heels of our financial discussion that we had just a couple of weeks ago. I think it's important to keep that in mind when we consider facilitation, especially since our current plan, we had so much great input in, and that the plan appears to be working well, and maybe we can work off of that. So I would pose that as a question to administration. The other one would be, Member Antonsen asked about obtaining director's input, or perhaps Dr. Massey's senior staff on input for their opinion on what direction to go with the strategic plan. And I would add to that, if there's no objection from the board here, that they also list things they like about the strategic plan, and perhaps something that they would change as well, and you know, give us some ideas there. I think that would be good. Those are the only notes I have on inquiries back to administration at this point. Did I miss anything, or is there anything we should add?
She asked about community involvement. How
much,
how much
like how do we
Oh,
choose
yes.
the community members?
Yeah.
Who gets to, is it draw from the hat, or?
Okay, yeah, and I had that written under facilitation, but yeah, I think that's a good point too, is Member Tyson.
I actually meant to add on to Member Antonsen's point, because that was excellent, that there is a lot of engagement. So I would like to still draw from all those groups that we listed, the faith community, the, if I can read my writing, business leadership, early childhood, focus groups from the high school and the junior high, and I can't read the other one, but, retired community.
Oh, retired community?
Yes.
Would we want that information this early in the process, or is that a later
Well,
step?
no, but just to be inclusive with our engagement again, like we were in the past.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking direct the next couple of weeks or month here,
Yeah.
like what are we looking for over that process? And of course, we're all going to have our own independent questions. We can reach out to administration and get that. But I feel like those two pieces there were the big piece on the ask for administration.
Good start.
Okay, so then I would have an ask for the board. How much time do we want to digest this and to think this over? Do we want to pick this up our next board meeting on the 21st? That feels fast to me. Do we want to readdress this and discuss it again on the September 4th, which would be 4 weeks out? And keep in mind, we don't have to make decisions. We just, I'm thinking, when do I throw it back on the proposed agenda so we keep talking about it? I don't want this to fall off and become something that we talked about once and then just forgot to bring up again. Yeah, Member Atkinson.
I think it kind of matters what you and Superintendent know that for sure that we're going to have on the agenda next week. If we're going to have enough time to talk about this, will we have enough time to have the administrators who just presented to us come back and speak to more about it?
That's a good point. Is that adequate time? Is 2 weeks adequate time for administration
Certainly.
to gather the information?
Yep, certainly.
Okay.
Are they too busy? They got a lot going on right now.
It's a busy time.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, we could put them on the mic now and they could answer that, so I don't think it's, not that we're going to do that, but I don't think it's complicated to bring that information forward.
Okay.
Member Hagelin.
Well, to Member Atkinson's point there, I agree that we should bring it back the agenda, I think, should be a lighter agenda. So there's not a lot of topics that night, and we also need to have it, as you had it on the agenda tonight, where discussion isn't limited, so that everybody, we don't have to worry about limits on discussion. So that would be my ask, is if, whether it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, however long, that administration has enough time to complete the couple asks you just had of them, where it's gonna be a lighter agenda, and we have plenty of time to just hash it out, questions, because we're probably gonna have more questions come out of that one too.
We are.
Well, I totally plan to watch this again and get this printed up, and yeah.
So, given that, how much time do you think you need to? I mean, I've seen this since the start of it. How much
I think
time would help you?
I mean, I think the next meeting would be a good follow-up. I mean, it doesn't have to be everything and we decide everything then, but I mean, a good follow-up. And I think if we can drip the information along until we, you know, are comfortable moving forward, that's a good way to go. So it stays fresh, I mean, at least for me.
We should just keep, that's a good point.
Well, and I would even be okay with proposing that we just keep it as a standing workshop item
I was gonna say.
for
Keep
each
it on the
meeting
agenda for the next
until we're
meeting.
ready to take action, because
Yeah.
new questions are going to come up, and I think it's important that
Keep adding to it.
so much of the work that we do is behind the scenes. And I think this is an important enough topic that we want to bring the questions up in an open meeting like this. And when community members reach out and they have questions, and they can see the interactions that we have in the boardroom, and we can parrot some of their questions to administration during this meeting, and they can get direct feedback. So, Member Christensen.
The only point I would make about that is, Member Chair, is if we have it on a standing agenda item, perhaps one of the administrators wouldn't be here for some reason, you know, if we had
Yep.
a question about community, you know, or you name it, you know. So I'm not sure about it being a standing agenda item. We don't really have anything else that's a standing agenda item.
Correct.
So I guess I would maybe, to Member Anton's and others' point, you know, 2 weeks from now, and then maybe 2 weeks again from that, or something like that. Just
Sure.
look ahead at the agendas, how heavy they are. But as far as a standing item, you know, maybe someone wouldn't be here. I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is just a, you know, I'm not sure. about
Member Castle?
Well, along with that idea is that if a person isn't there to bounce these ideas off of, then we do that the next time.
Right.
So the workshops, who's ever there at the time, we could work with those people then.
I can go either way. I was just saying that we don't really have anything else that's a standing agenda item, and you know, someone's
And
not.
perhaps we could use what we did with the redistricting, or some of that, where the involvement was very good with the entire community with that, and which was as important in some aspects, but this is much more important when you really look at the big picture.
Yeah, Member Tyson?
Well, I would just recommend to Member Hagelin's point that usually the workshop stuff is done on the second meeting of the month. It's
Yep.
usually got a lighter agenda, so we could always plan for it to be on that agenda. So it's not really standing it on there every month, but if we
Yeah.
put it on the second meeting, it would.
I think what I'm hearing is let's put this on as another discussion item on the proposed agenda for the 21st, and kind of see where we go from there. We'll get some answers between now and then from administration on a couple of things that we had. We'll get an opportunity to digest it. The public will have an opportunity to provide some feedback over the next couple of weeks. Knowing that it's a workshop item, no official action will be taken on that. There's no motions on the floor, so there's no limitations on discussion. It's just kind of this back and forth. And obviously, once we get closer to actually adopting something, then we'll be on there for official action. But in the meantime, I think it's important that we discuss it really as much as we can, and really fully understand it and keep the community involved in the discussions we're having. So if that's the prerogative of the board, I'll add it to the proposed agenda for August 21st.
Great.
Any additional discussion this evening, or shall we move on?
Move on.
All right, seeing none, that brings us to reviewing upcoming calendar dates. As I've just noted, August 21st is our next board meeting. We're getting dangerously close to the beginning of the school year, so check your own personal calendars and be ready. And with that, that brings us to item 11, And I would entertain a motion to close the meeting as permitted by Minnesota State Statute, Section 13D.03, Subdivision 1B, to discuss labor negotiation strategy for Forest Lake Education Association.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we will close the session now.